I just got off a Virgin Voyages cruise, and I thought I'd give my perspective because I'm someone who's been cruising with Royal Caribbean the last 2 years, and then way back all the way, my first cruise was on Grandeur of the Seas in 2002. So if you can imagine going from huge ships on Oasis of the Seas, I went on Allure of the Seas, and then my last cruise was on Freedom of the Seas, which isn't a small ship. And then going over to Valiant Lady, and we cruised 5 nights. We went to the Dominican Republic over at Puerto Plata, and then we went to their private island over at Bimini Beach over in the Bahamas. So I'm going to talk about the contrast of the two cruises. You know, again, coming from someone where my sole perspective of cruising is Royal Caribbean, and also, you know, having sailed on the Disney Dream when that one first came out with my family, and then all of a sudden jumping over to the Virgin Voyages. I have to admit, there were some things, perceptions about that were wrong, but then this one we're going to talk about 5 things that I liked better on the Virgin Voyages cruise, and then I'm going to talk about 5 things that I liked better on the Royal Caribbean ships. So let's start off with the first thing that I like better on the Virgin cruises. Number 1, it's the crowd. And before you think, okay, just because it's an all-adult cruise, it's because there were no kids. First and foremost, my wife and I have never been on a Royal Caribbean cruise, or even the Disney cruise for that matter, and got annoyed with kids. Frankly, because we go out to the adult party spaces. I'd never see kids over at the bars. I never see kids over at the nightclubs. Yeah, we might get kicked by a kid or two when we're in the hot tub or something like that, or get cut off at the buffet line. But the other 99% of the time, we're having a blast in the adult areas and the kids don't bother us. The main reason why we liked the crowd on Virgin Voyages is because it seemed to hit that sweet spot of that target demographic, and it's not really 20-somethings that like some people would think. You know, a lot of it was people in your mid-30s all the way up to 60, and then we met someone in their 70s. A shout out to a gal, Mona, that we met, and she was sailing solo, but it was just really our vibe because, believe it or not, you have an Oasis ship with over 6,000 people compared to a Virgin Voyages ship with just about 2,500 people. You're actually running into way more people on the Virgin ship that you see versus on an Oasis ship. You have 6,000 people, but then once you peel back the onion and you're taking away the families and you're taking away the seniors, all the Pinnacle members, and you're just stuck with the same people that do what we do, that hit up the lounges, hit up the nightclubs, you're really seeing the same people over and over again. Compared to a Virgin cruise, you just have a bigger pool and you have a lot more like-minded people. I'll talk about what happened on the Grog Walk, but it's just a better overall crowd, or at least for us empty nesters. Number 2, we like the music better on Virgin Voyages. Now, I have to make a disclaimer. I'm a big EDM head, and whether you like EDM, rock, or you want to go take a deep dive into today's hip hop, you're not going to be satisfied on these mainstream cruises because they have the tall order of not only hiring a cheaper international DJ, but they also have to come up with a playlist that appeals to 6,000 people on board or 2,500 people on board. The Virgin cruise had a much bigger variety of music. I have to admit, I heard the same mix. There was like a Calvin Harris mix where they dropped in other vocals. I think they dropped in Whitney Houston with one of his songs. But I heard that mix like 2 or 3 times. But it wasn't like Royal Caribbean, where you're just hearing the same wedding songs over and over again. I'm talking about YMCA, the Cha-Cha song. Get Low, that song by Journey that they always play. You're hearing those songs almost every single day. And if you can imagine, last year we took almost a back-to-back sailing, and we're hearing those songs almost 14 days in a row. You almost feel like shooting yourself. So the variety was really important to us. But again, if you're a really big fan who wants the DJ to take a deep dive and go down a rabbit hole, it's just not going to happen. If you want that to happen, then go on a specialty cruise or go on something like Groove Cruise, which is just EDM the whole 5 days. And that I believe that's hosted by Insomniac every year. And yeah, you could go down a rabbit hole with that. Number 3 is the restaurants. I have to say this was probably the most closest category because I love the 150, 150 Central Park, and then also Chops Steakhouse over at the Oasis style ships, and also Giovanni's. But then I have to pick Virgin in this because I'm a bodybuilder, and then I don't want to eat dirty food or junk food almost round the clock. Virgin just seemed to have better food options around the clock, whether it was in the morning for breakfast all the way up to late night where I could go down to the galley. Compare that versus going on a Royal Caribbean ship where you pretty much are at the mercy of Sorrento's and Promenade Cafe, where you just have either sandwiches that are all bun or pretty much just all cheese and bread after midnight. Compare that versus going over to the galley or even the pizza place at midnight or even 1 o'clock over on Virgin cruises, where I could grab even an egg white omelet if I wanted to. Yes, I do eat like that sometimes on a cruise. Or I could go grab like a double cheeseburger, which I did a few nights, and get my protein in because I'm one of those guys who wakes up in the middle of the night hungry. So that is one way to keep my appetite curbed. And then the other times of the day, I could go down to a place called the Dock House and then order shrimp skewers. They've got there was like a steak dish, a flat iron steak dish, and then also chicken skewers. So, and then of course there was a poke place that was up on the top deck next to the pool. I could get clean proteins around the clock, and then if I wanted to eat dirty and wanted to splurge, I could go down to a place and get a good dessert. Even over at the galley, I could do that. So I have to give the nod over to Virgin Voyages for having slightly better food. Number 4, smoke-free casino. My wife and I were really looking forward to the Royal Caribbean casinos because they're massive. But then as soon as we got in there, we did not want to stay there because of we do not like smoke. We're used to the Vegas casinos where the ceilings are really high, and if there's a smoker, they're going to be like hundreds of yards away from you. But because you're in such close proximity, the smoke really got to us. That's why we like Virgin Voyages. We got to enjoy even the bar area, enjoy a few drinks over there, and then my wife got to hit the slots. If we did have time, I would have hit some of the blackjack tables up and maybe the roulette table, but then we just really were pinched for time on this 5-day sailing. Number 5, themed nights and activities. We got to go on the second grog walk because the first one was sold out, but then the grog walk it's a great bar hop. I think it was 4 bars that we got to go to.
Magic night! Magic night! Magic night! Oh wow! You see what I gotta do?
You don't have anything like that on Royal Caribbean. Sure, on Royal Caribbean you have the dress your best night, and then they have the 70s night. But then if you dress up for those, there's a lot of parts of the ship where you're the only one dressed up and you're kind of stick out like a sore thumb. On Virgin, on Scarlet Night, where everyone's wearing red, just about like 99% of the people is participating in Scarlet Night. Pajama party, almost everybody is participating in pajama party. So we liked that vibe, and everyone just seemed to crank it up a notch. And again, Virgin Voyages gets a bad rap for being over the top, but then my wife and I were experienced party goers over in Vegas, and they do not go over the top. It was actually pretty tame for us. It ends pretty early for us, but then all in all, it was a good time. Now let's talk about what I like better on Royal Caribbean. And again, I'm talking about the Oasis style ships, and then having sailed on one Freedom class ship. First and foremost, it's the onboarding process. The Royal Caribbean fleet has a well-oiled machine, whether we're sailing out of Galveston or even out of Miami. For the moment that you get dropped off, you drop off your bags, you're just moving along, someone pulls up with an iPad, checks you in. you're moving along so fast, you almost don't have time for pictures. Next thing you know it, you're on the ship and you're at the Royal Promenade getting greeted. So kudos to Royal Caribbean. We're not even Pinnacle members or whatever higher statuses there are. We're just your regular customers. Compare that process over with Virgin Voyages, where there was a long line outside. One of the employees was even a little grumpy because a couple of us went to the bathroom and came back. They thought we're cutting the line. But then it seemed everything bottlenecked down to what we saw. We finally saw what was holding everything up. There was one metal detector. Everybody was just coming in through that one metal detector, and where it was just a slow trickle in. And then we got in. It was a great vibe as soon as we arrived. I think it's on deck 7, and the party's going on, the DJ's going. And then, but compared to Royal Caribbean and even Disney, the check-in process is not up to par. Number 2, the nighttime offerings. Yeah, sure, I talked about earlier how I love the pajama party and even the Scarlet Night. But on Royal Caribbean, it's a floating city and it's tough to compete with. You have Central Park. You got a serene atmosphere where you could go down to the Trellis Bar, even listen to an artist over there in the garden, a glass of wine over at Vintages, and then just take in a peaceful setting. Or you could go to the Royal Promenade, and they have activities there, live entertainment. They also have the Schooner Bar going on. Then you could go head down to either Blaze Nightclub, you could go to the Jazz Place, karaoke bar. See the thorn twist in your side, and now Latin nightclub. There's just so many things going on. Oh yeah, and then there's the music hall. The music hall had some legit bands that were playing some of your retro 80s and 90s music. And again, it is just so hard to compete with that versus, don't get me wrong, Virgin Voyages had some great offerings at night. The casino's great, it's smoke-free. You have their nightclub as well, and then you have their better DJs, but then again, nothing beats the variety of Royal Caribbean. Number 3, by a huge margin, it's the pools. The swimming pools on an Oasis-style ship just dwarfs the small 2 pools over on Virgin's Valiant Lady. There was only a regular-sized pool and then a small round pool on Valiant Lady, versus the massive pool decks, all the hot tubs that they have, the big pools, and then you got the zip line going up above, and also the rock climbing wall. That pool deck and all those things going on, it's just tough to beat on a smaller ship. Number 4, the gym. The gym on Virgin Voyages, it was nice, and I was able to get a full back workout and also a shoulder day workout. But then it's tough to beat the one over on the Oasis style ships. You're looking at almost a full-size gym that would rival a lot of the full health clubs back home where I am. And here's the kicker. There's almost never anybody in there, no matter what time I went. You could go down to the jogging track and then it leads directly into the gym, and then the gym just has so many machines, so much cardio equipment, and then so many free weights as well. Number 5, the stateroom. Again, unfair comparison because the ship's just so much bigger, but then the stateroom of an Oasis-style ship versus the Valiant Lady, there's no comparison. Yeah, sure, I love the tablet and how you're able to control everything from an iPad, including the mood, and watch all these movies. But then on an Oasis-style ship, there's just so much more storage, so much more cabinet space. You even just have more closet space. Even the bathroom is much more bigger. So all in all, I would definitely go again on a Virgin cruise. I just wanted to make those comparisons. Again, 5 things that I liked about Royal, 5 things I liked about Virgin Voyages. I think the main thing that's going to keep me coming back to Virgin Voyages versus making me a little hesitant to go book my next Royal Caribbean cruise is the repetitiveness. Again, going back to hearing the same 5 songs and the same shows after we took back-to-back cruisings. We're just looking for something a little different. And again, the crowd, I forgot to mention, the crowd, because we're traveling so close to Thanksgiving, the elephant in the room was that there were no groups of singles traveling around. I don't know if Thanksgiving did that to them or this was just a bad sample size, but the Virgin Voyages cruise, we didn't see any bachelorette party. We didn't even see a girl's birthday. We didn't see a bachelor party. You know, it's rare guys will say, hey guys, let's go on a cruise anyway. But we didn't see any of those. I think I saw one group of girls traveling, but then everyone else, either couples or you had groups of couples going.